everyone. The next one will be Dr. Bonnie M. Russell. Bonnie, the floor is yours.
Hello, good morning. Good morning, everybody. Dr. Gregg, I love your work. I am a doctor of shamanistic theology, which pretty much means I've studied the religions of the world. But I believe my mission on this planet is to bridge the gap between mysticism and quantum physics. So that's why I've studied your work and work of others like yourself. My question is, doing what we're doing here with Shlomo, learning all of these techniques, what do you believe is the next step to actually bring healing to the world? We're learning all this stuff. We're doing all this hard work on our own selves. How do we collectively then go forward? Say, okay, I'm healed. I've decided my walls are down and I'm ready to heal the world. What's that step?
Well, first, Dr. Bonnie, thank you for the work you're doing. Where are you coming from today?
I'm in California. I'm in the Bay Area.
It felt like you were closer to me than some of the other people here. So I'm coming from our studio in New Mexico. So you're my neighbor off to the west.
There you go. Very close.
Yeah, thank you. Well, you know, it's a good question, and it's a question that has many layers of answers. We are all already healed, and there are deeper levels of healing that we will all achieve. I know for myself, I will continue my healing process until my last breath on this planet. And it is a deeply personal journey. We will heal to the level that our emotions and our psyche will allow us to heal. People see this in therapy all the time. You know, they'll say, okay, well, I worked through the trauma of my divorce, or, you know, my abuse, or whatever it is. And a couple of years later, they'll say, well, I'm in it again. Well, you're in it in a deeper level for a deeper healing. So I think that's important. We are consistently healing. So it is a process rather than an event. The quantum aspect comes in precisely in this way, because what the quantum field says, where do you draw the line between where you end and the rest of the world begins? And the answer is you cannot draw that line, because we are deeply connected. The Nobel Prize in Physics last year, 2022, went to the two physicists that verified through mathematics what we have all sensed intuitively, and that is the deep connection that underlies all of existence. It's called entanglement. And the Nobel Prize in Physics went to the two scientists that documented entanglement in a way that was quantifiable, that had never been done before. So what that means, if you take that principle and you apply it to my healing or to your healing, it means that the healing is not confined to your body or my body. So as we heal, we are contributing to the healing of everyone who is part of that field. And I think this is really important. You know, I just came back from Arizona last week, where I led a 4-day intensive. And part of that intensive was healing our personal trauma from this generation, because I believe that we don't want to take that trauma into the new world. We don't want to take the fear of our parents and the fear that we were indoctrinated into the new world. And we don't want to take that suffering into the new world. And we pass it from generation to generation. We pass it through genetics, literally. But then there were people in the audience that said to me, well, you know, if I heal my own trauma, I'm never going to have children. So how can I affect the future? How can I affect the next generation? And the answer to that question is what we're talking about here. Because whether you pass it on biologically or not, as we embrace and transcend our own personal traumas, which we all have, it is echoed in the field. Because the field only knows coherence or chaos. That's all the field knows. So as we heal our personal trauma, we are contributing with coherence into the field, and everyone is part of that field. Every CEO of every corporation, Bill Gates, Gavin Newsom, your governor, our president of our nation, the president of Israel, every CEO of every corporation, every leader of every nation is part of that field. So literally, we are contributing. I think that's the next step.
Mhm.
The next step. You cannot convince or persuade anyone of the deep truths that we are realizing in this course. It doesn't work.
You're right. And this
Yeah.
science is so brand new. I mean, really, in the past 10 years, we've discovered so much more. And what I try to do for my students and my clients is I tell them that because we are all one, we're all connected, that if any one person on the planet can be healed or is healed, then you can too, just because you're a part of that. Sometimes being bogged down in your own things makes it more difficult for you to heal without that realization. When you understand that you are connected, that we're connected.
The personal healing has to be a choice. But what I'll say is this, the personal healing is a choice. And some people are very attached to their suffering.
Yes.
Some people are very attached to their pain because it's all they've ever known. And it's much easier to be in the familiar, even though it hurts, rather than risk the healing and the unknown of what that is. So it is a personal choice. However, when it comes to coherence, what the science shows very clearly is that when individuals are in a coherent field, they are changed in the presence of that coherence. I've seen this in a corporate boardroom. When I was the first technical operations manager at Cisco Systems in Palo Alto, and I was the youngest in the boardroom. And I used to see this happen. People in that boardroom were conditioned to share their ideas with powerful voices, with anger, pounding the fists on the table, and saying things to other people that were hurtful. And when one person in the room would come into that room with a very, very different attitude, a different perspective, the whole vibe in the room would change and people would begin responding in a kinder way. So I've seen this happen. I've seen it happen in government. So what we're seeing on the micro scale happens on the macro as well. And what the Institute of Heart Math has shown through the sensors is a relatively few number of people who come to terms with that coherence in their own lives. And I'm not going to say control, and I'm not going to say manipulate, but I will say that they strongly influence the field of the world around them. And the studies, show this very clearly. The studies in the 1970s were showing in cities with populations of 10,000 or greater, when a certain number of people were creating that coherence, during the time of the coherence, emergency hospital visits declined, traffic accidents declined, violent crimes against people declined. And then the key was, when they stopped creating the coherence, all of those statistics reversed. So the lesson from this is that coherence isn't something that we do in a minute and then go about the rest of our lives. Coherence is something that we become to the best of our ability, because as we become coherence and as we respond to the best of our ability to every situation, every day in life, that coherence is contributing and influencing the field in the world around us. So I think that's the best answer that I have to your question, but I want to thank you for the work you're doing. And thank you for a good question.
I actually want to just add on real quick. Do you think that the younger generations, the children who are coming into the world now, are going to be better equipped to do this work? I know it's harder for us because this information is so new and we have it ingrained in us, some of the older feelings and teachings. Do you think the younger kids are going to just take to it like a duck to water?
The younger kids are going to adapt whatever it is that we offer to them, because they rely on us for guidance. A lot of people don't like to acknowledge that. They don't want to think that. And that is the truth. What the science very clearly shows, from the ages of 1 until 7,
Right.
The brain is in a developmental state where it is absorbing the information from its environment. And the structure of that environment, the values of that environment are instilled between the ages of 1 and 7. In the United States of America, we have 50% of our households are single family or single parent households. And that parent is working 2 to 3 jobs and is not providing the guidance for the young people. So they are getting that guidance from their peers, from the media, from the music, and it is not serving them right now. You're talking about the younger generation. A lot of people don't like to talk about this, but they need the guidance and the values of another generation. But we don't want to instill them with our fears and our suffering. So as we heal to the degree that we can share that with our young people, I think that's where the promise is. Having said that, I travel the world. I'm all over the world. And what I'll say is this: young people are ready for a new world. They acknowledge the hurt and the suffering of their parents. We saw this, in Israel, Shlomo, you see this all the time. The young, the Palestinian kids, Christian kids, the Muslim kids, the Jewish kids, they all know about the suffering and they're seeing the results of that. But there's a part of them that wants more. They want to play music together. They want to play soccer together. They want to participate in a new world. And I see the same thing in other parts of Africa. I see it in the US. I see it all through Europe. Spend a lot of time in Peru and parts of South America. So I think the younger generation is ready for something more, and they sense that another world exists, but they still rely upon the guidance of their elders for a period of time to help them to establish the values that will be the foundation for the choices that they're going to make. So I'm very optimistic. I think young people are the promise, obviously, of the world to come. Yeah, thank you.
We have to be better teachers, and then we're going to go ahead and do it. We're going to save the world. Thank you so much, Dr. Gregg. Thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you so much.